Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Fiction and Feelings. I'm your host, Simone, and this is the space where we dig deep and dive deep into stories that we love or hate. And today we're going to be looking at Thunderbolts. Now, the reason that I've chosen Thunderbolts is because it feels like if Thunderbolts is such a great expression of mood disorders. And the psychological and emotional themes that came out are a glimpse as to what it really feels like to struggle on a daily basis. I loved the scene where Yelena and Bob are talking when they get to the top of the tube elevator thing, and they're talking. This is the first time that they mention the word void, and they're talking about the emptiness, the loneliness inside that really consumes you and makes you feel like if there's no getting out of it. And that resonated with me so hard. Like, I didn't go into the movie knowing anything about this, and it really struck a chord with me because I felt that way. And I know many people have felt that way. And it was something that I felt like we needed to talk about. So today, we're going to break it down a little bit and talk about how it's connected to depression, really. It could be it could be connected to any mood disorder, really. But today I wanted to come from the angle of depression because I felt like if depression is really the thing that encompasses the void, and I felt like if the void equaled depression in that movie for me, from my perspective. This movie was so good to me because in the question of when she says, when he asks, how do you deal with the void? How do you deal with that emptiness? And she says that you just stuff it down. It was a joke, but it is so relatable because that's what we all do. We all shove it into a deep, dark place where we don't have to deal with it anymore. And the essence of the movie, of the darkness just taking over, the shadow taking over, and causing everyone to just relive their shameful moments, their regret, their guilt, their sadness, is literally just depression. Like, put into this picture for everyone to see, to identify with. Because at some point in your life, you felt that darkness, you've had that darkness in you. And even if you don't struggle with depression as a diagnosis, where major depressive disorder is defined as a persistent depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure in most activities, feelings of worthlessness, fatigue, changes in sleep or appetite, and recurrent thoughts, sometimes even of death. That everyone associates with just the sadness. They just see that face of sadness, but they don't see that, like, sometimes you say that you're fine, just like how Robert tried to say that he was fine. And every single misfit in that group could tell that the other person wasn't fine because they know the darkness. You can't run from the darkness when, like, you're facing the darkness. The darkness is literally always just looking at you like, I see you. I see myself in there. And it tries to let us think that it can control us, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So it's a sinking, empty sensation that we all feel. This internal black hole that's just there. And the worst part of it is the rumination, the mental loop of going through the shame, going through the worst memories on like this highlight reel where you're just going over and over and over and over, like if you're literally in hell. And it's just this struggle where it's never ending almost, that you don't get to, well, never ending because it's a loop. You just feel like if there's nothing that you can do about it, you can't stop it, you can't change it because it's a memory. It's it's already too late to change that thing. And I love that the truth in the movie and in psychology in general is there's no clear cut answer as to how to survive that, as to how to get out of the void. But there are tools that you can use and signposts that you can use to get out of it. So I feel like if that was such a great showing of it, like you didn't leave the movie feeling depressed. And, or at least maybe you did, but it didn't strip you of all hope, or it shouldn't have stripped you of all hope, because the movie showed that darkness and showed that in that togetherness, in them being there for each other, they were able to crawl out of the hole. Like you can literally take the scene where they have to put their backs together to get out of that tube, as one person couldn't do that on their own. They're all super in some way, and one of them couldn't do that on their own. Well, we later learned that Robert probably could have, but in theory, they can't. You can't do it on your own because we don't have the superpowers to just fly out of the darkness, out of that tunnel, out of that hole, and we do need someone else to help us, or many someones, because sometimes one person isn't enough. I I loved that there wasn't a competition, because they're in the aspect of it, like each one of them has been through so much trauma, and it's all shown whenever Robert touches one of their hands and they go into their memories of just things that they've had to see, had to face. And Yelena was just like, "Oh, we can play this game where who has the saddest childhood." And Walter is just like, "Oh, well, at least you were a child." Like we can all do that to each other. We can all say, "I've had it worse. I've been through X, Y, and Z." And the other person be like, "Oh, well, I've been through A, B, and C." And it's just like, we can't compare pain because nothing is comparable. Like, you have been through what you've been through, and that's your darkness. And you might have been able to survive somebody else's darkness, but you can't survive another person's. Like, everybody is carrying such a catastrophic burden, like the crime, the betrayal, the loss, abandonment, but no one had it worse than the other person, and you don't have it worse than somebody else. Not because you're not going through anything, but because you can't compare to somebody else what you're going through. And in therapists, we see this all the time where clients try to minimize their pain. And it's like, oh, well, there are people going through worse. I I might not be starving. I at least have a home. And it's kind of like this toxic positivity almost of, I'm not going to allow myself to feel the feelings that I'm feeling because somebody else has had it worse. It's been worse for other people, and therefore mine doesn't need validation. Mine can't have any validation. And that's not true, because your feelings still need to be acknowledged, because that's what you are going through, and you're important. Suffering doesn't need a permission slip. Like, if it hurts, guys. And I love that in each of their things, no one tried to take away from somebody else's pain and say, no, that was nothing. There's kind of like this interpersonal connection that we need from each other so that we don't go through this struggle alone. For us to have like this bond, because life is not a individual sport, it's a team sport. We all need each other. If we try to sit down in the rumination alone, we will never get out of it by ourselves. We will never not succumb to the darkness. We need someone else to help pull us out of it, and we need to help pull someone else out of it. But I also want to make sure that I'm clear that you need to do that in a safe way. Because if we're all in a void and we're all in this emptiness, we don't want to then go and sit down with somebody who's currently in the same darkness and essentially drown each other in ourselves, drown in this darkness and keep each other in darkness. So going to someone, therapy, group therapy is amazing because there are multiple people there to connect to. And there's also that guider who is there to help bring us back if we have put ourselves too far into a hole. So it's identifying and relating to other people, but also not going down in the spiral. We're going upwards. So having that guided peer support and that group therapy can really help. In the movie, all of the characters were dealing with their own things, but they were also able to almost distract themselves. So that's also another aspect that I thought was great because that can also be helpful of when you're feeling depressed is helping somebody else can pull you out of that same hole that you are in. You can often be so wrapped up in what's going on in your world, and especially with how the world is today and the 12-day war, like Palestine, Israel, wars in general, civil wars, global wars, international, everything is just economic crumble. All of these things are weighing on us daily, let alone us having to wake up every day, eat healthy, exercise, self care, take care of ourselves, take care of children, take care of elderly, take care of young people, take care of our mental health, take care of everything, like go to work. There's so much on our plate that we get so consumed with ourselves, and it's often such a struggle that we do need that distraction of helping somebody else because sometimes helping someone else can actually get you out of that hole for long enough that that hole doesn't feel as consuming. Because we all have those moments where we're just feeling burnt out and we have the fatigue and the loneliness even when we're in a crowd, but sometimes this behavioral activation is a therapeutic thing to get you out of that depression because we can feel stuck, and the action of just checking in on somebody else can be enough to make you feel just a little bit better. Walking a dog, taking care of a pet, that therapy, that outside time can really aid in getting you out of your funk and helping you feel a little less unstuck. Like sometimes when you're doing art and you have to, or you're like painting or drawing, you have to take a step away from your art because you've been working on it for so many hours and you need to leave and come back with a new perspective. When you've written a book, you put it down for a while and then you can come back to it and see it with like almost a fresh pair of eyes. So this behavioral activation is literally that. We're coming back to it with a new set of eyes, a refresh almost, because you've been helping somebody else cope with the void and now you're in a better place to deal with your own void when you come back. Let's be real about how to cope with it and tools. Like I said previously, we have to learn how to navigate with tools because sometimes the void isn't curable. Like, especially when you suffer with depression, like you have major depressive disorder, you have a mood disorder, and Instead of trying to be like, oh, I need to fix myself because there's something wrong with me, you can learn to navigate, learn to cope. And as I said earlier, naming it, like feeling that feeling, validating that feeling. So naming it and taming it, like identifying, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling anxiety, giving that feeling a name. I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling isolated, feeling hurt, and allowing yourself the self compassion to realize that it's okay to feel that and that you don't need to be afraid of what you're feeling. That naming it isn't giving it power to take control of you, but in fact, the opposite. It's allowing you to take control of that feeling. Talking to somebody who's trained to help you, to hold space for that. So in therapy, as therapists, as psychologists, we're supposed to be there to allow you to get that moment of not being okay. We want you to come into our office and not be okay and tell us why you're not okay and share that. That we spent so long just being quiet and not wanting to talk about things and thinking that we need to deal with things individually. But as I said before, life is not an individual sport, it's a team sport, and we really do need each other. So we have to put forward like this, I'm going into this and I need to share, I need to express myself. But then you'll think to yourself, oh, well, there are people who will just take my personal information, my private information, just make fun of me. That's why we're saying we're going to somebody trained, or we're going to somebody who's trustworthy, somebody that we can count on, that emotional support that we really need, instead of somebody who's just a fake friend. And you'd have to decipher that. We can also be mindful and sit and feel that feeling, sitting with that feeling, meaning that we accept, that we don't run from it, that we figure out where it is in our body and do some meditation, do some stress relief, yoga, deep breathing, observing the thoughts that are coming in, challenging the thoughts that are coming into your mind. You can find meaning in the void, in the darkness that's there. If we sit and we talk about it, if we analyze it and we try to get out of it and we don't let it overpower us by using the tools that we talked about. So the movie didn't really hand us like a super big blueprint, a map on how to get out of it. Dark, depressive episode. Well, kind of did, but not really. Like it didn't give us specific instructions, but it helped us remember that there there's a weight that we carry and none of us are alone in it. And I love that message. Even with Yelena and her dad, the pretending to be a person that had it all together, that he was okay when he wasn't. Like her being vulnerable enough to talk and say that she wasn't okay either. And he showed up for her time and time again. He wasn't the perfect dad, but he showed up. And the trust that they had to build with each of those misfits of, I need you to get out of this. They all wanted to be wanted so badly. And I feel like if that helped, because as I said, it's a team sport, and you could feel isolated for so long and feel the darkness of your past and the things that you've done. And each of them had to deal with, like, we've done bad things. We're not good people, but we can still be loved. That group, they love each other. Like in such a short space of time, they now love each other because it's what they craved, and they understand each other the most because they've been the villains. They've been the people who've not done the good things. They do bad things, and they realize that that doesn't make them awful in that sense, like that they still deserve to be loved. So it didn't mean that they were broken. It means that you're a human being, and I love that aspect of the movie, still being a human, deep down, still having those emotions and stuffing it down can help us for like a brief moment. It buys us some time sometimes, but then it just consumes us. Robert was running from that for so long. And even in going towards getting stronger, the injection essentially just amplified what was going on, and it didn't allow him to run from it anymore. It consumed him, and it started to consume all of New York. And facing it with each other, with the entire team, was what was able to help bring him out. The group hug was so good, guys. That group hug felt like she's over his shoulder saying, I've got you. And sometimes we just need to tell each other that we've got each other. So if you're listening today and you feel like if you're in your own void, like just know that you're not alone and that you're not too much. People can help you fix it. Keep moving, keep talking, keep sharing. Yeah, sometimes life is messy, but we can really help each other and be a support. So thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.